first thing he's going to say, peace. And he's going to say, I love you. And he's not only going to say it, but you're going to start realizing this is the kind of love that I need. And how many know sometimes a love takes the little laddie out behind the barn, and when laddie comes back, he has had the board of education to the seat of his learning. And of course, I agree sort of with my older brothers and sisters. I didn't get enough of that. But I want to encourage you, I believe that I'm in a relationship with God the Father right now. God is after me. And I believe that you are in a relationship with God the Father. And the Father says, whom the Lord loveth, he disciplineth. And my encouragement today is let him come into your life more and let him work in your life to get us where we need to be. All right. I love this. Let's go down to verse 39. He's saying, and he's having a hard time because these guys, in fact, you'll see, he says, behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Handle me, touch here. We believe that he still had those scars, if we understand correctly. Handle me and see, for as the spirit does not have flesh and bones, as you see I have. He told Timothy, come here, Thomas, come here and put your finger right into this scar. How many know he didn't need to do that because he had faith in doubting Thomas? Verse 40, when he said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. In fact, our invitation today, let me read the chorus. Place your hands in the nail-scarred hands. Place your hands in the nail-scarred hands. If you're sitting so close to someone, hold each other's hands. Reach out to someone and look at their hands. Maybe you can point out a little bit. I have one, my left hand, if I ever get burnt in a fire, Renee just needs to look at this hand. I have this ring here cut open because I can't get it over that big knot. And this finger here is a little 1/4 inch. Imagine one of these days that we're sitting in the heavenly orchestras playing. And there's a seat by Jesus. And you go sit down beside Jesus and he puts his hand over there. And there is the nail print in his hand. I want to let you know, I believe with all my heart, one of these days, God has set it up so that you and I will have an encounter with the living God. And I want to let you know, I believe you'll be brought back to the memory that God loved you enough to die for you. Here's Jesus saying, look here. Look here. Look at the nail print in my hand. Do you need to put your hand in the wound on my side? I want to encourage you. This is the loving God that you and I have. All right. He says, when he had said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. But while they still did not believe for joy. Now here, sometimes your emotions can make you crazy. I stand on testimony, see it. Here they are, they're filled with joy according to Scripture, and yet they still can't wrap their minds around that Jesus has resurrected from the dead and is standing in front of them. But while they still did not believe for joy and marveled, he said to them, and this has got to be my new favorite section of Scriptures, have you any food here? And in verse 42, now remember, I believe with all my heart, this is an example of our glorified body. One of these days, Miss Connie, they're going to take all that arthritis out of us. And I go to bed with Arthur and wake up with Burr. All those pains and all the failings that the curse has brought on our bodies. And we believe that Jesus was able to go through that door. We believe that another part of the Scriptures that those guys were in a room with the door locked and Jesus just appeared in the middle of the room. I love this. Listen to this. He asked them, do they have any food? And verse 42 says, so they gave him a piece of broiled fish and some honeycomb. I want to encourage you that when we get to heaven, some of the things that we enjoy most here, we're going to have fellowship with those that we love for all eternity. And God's going to smooth over all those little rough edges. It was just so cool to see Mr. Homer with all his brothers yesterday. Just have fun. And next to the youngest brother told us how he was in the Navy. use that as an illustration. You know, Jesus said, peace to be unto you. Now, do any of our soldiers, I think none of us were in the Navy, were we? I understand a submarine can be 50 feet below the water. And if there's a hurricane on top of the ocean, that they can hardly tell in that submarine that there's a storm up above. I want to encourage you to be so deep in the love of God that the storms that are going on in this world do not continually disrupt you. And I believe if we dig in close to Jesus, that when we can hear him say, how many know if God can speak the sun into existence, he can speak into your heart, peace. And I encourage you, now most of you probably need sleep. Probably the first thing, if you had an encounter with God and he spoke peace to you, it'd be like getting a massage at the massage place. You'd be fall off asleep. My sister Nancy says she goes to get a massage and she sleeps through half of it. I'm going, man. I believe, and I want to tell you, sometimes the best prayer that you can have is to let God put you to sleep. Because you're anxious and worried about stuff, and God comes and just says, I love you, just be at peace. All right, where are we here? They gave him a piece of broiled fish and some honeycomb. And for instance, I was saying that when we get to heaven, I want to let you know that I was very encouraged about that. I enjoy, in fact, I'm getting our third cucumber off my little cucumber bush. I want to tell you, there's nothing better than a cucumber you grew from a seed. I want to encourage you, one of these, can you imagine in heaven, the food will be just absolutely pure and perfect. Jesus was doing all of this. I don't think Jesus was necessarily hungry. And I encourage you to meditate. Jesus resurrected 40 days later. He ascended, and we're going through that. Is it possible that Jesus was going over to different, like the Native Americans and different places to spread the gospel? To at least plant a seed? I don't know. But I do know this, that for 40 days, Jesus was here on earth, and we believe that when he died, that he ascended down, and that in and of itself is a story, but when he resurrected, he was here for 40 days, and we only have about maybe 5 or 6 or 7 different things that are recorded in the scriptures. All right, verse 43, and he's doing this to help alleviate them of the fear that he's just a ghost. And he took it, and he ate it in their presence. Verse 44. Then he said to them, these are the words which I spoke to you while I was still with you, that all things must be fulfilled that were written in the law of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms concerning me. That all things will be fulfilled which were written concerning me. Do you know that there are scriptures in this Bible that are written concerning you? I hope that you have claimed Philippians 4:13. I can do all things. How many know that applies for Pam, Miss Edna, and Miss Edna's sister Frida? I went to see her the other day, and they must have her over at Lexington Medical. Just touch Miss Frida. I want to encourage you that when you come into a realization, and this is the reason why I like to read the Bible is so important, that when you're doing a meditation or any kind of study and you lock into verse, like let's do Philippians 4:19, my God will supply all my riches according to his riches in glory. And I've heard my mother say several times to me saying, you should do John 3:16, and then I encourage you to do it. For God so loved, and you put your name in there, for God so loved. Well, he loves Donnie. I don't know about the rest of you. And the reason I want to highlight this point is Jesus said, all these things written about me must take place. You remember one of the things written was that he was supposed to be with some robbers. And the night of his betrayal, he says, we need to have a sword because it says in the scripture. I want to encourage you, especially, like for instance, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. The Lord has prompted me. There are promises that God has given me, and it's my responsibility to enforce them. Now you think, for instance, let's do Philippians 4, 6, and 7. Be anxious for nothing. This is for everyone here. Be anxious for nothing. I mean, first of all, how many know if you're going to do a contract, you got to do your part? Now, my part is not to try not to be anxious. Oh, I'm anxious. Oh, settle down, settle down. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer. That's pretty simple. Try to pray and make your supplications known with God. And here's what's written about me following those commands. And the peace of God